chapter 4, verse 22. Yadrichalabhasantushto dvandvatito vimatsarah samah siddhavasiddhau cha kritvapi na nibadhyate. That is the shloka that we are supposed to see today. This today's session, we're going to see a lot of verses that gives us a practical application, practical knowledge where we can apply it in our everyday life in terms of how the karma yoga can be practiced and also how karma yoga is generally practiced by others. We have a lot of questions in terms of what is right and what is wrong in terms of worshipping, practicing um, the karma yoga, or whether this is right or that is right. For example, observing vrata or offerings to different deities, what is right and right, all those the questions. Today's session, we're going to see some of the verses that is going to explain to us what are all the acceptable forms of offerings and what does offering means. Everything we're going to see. So let's start with the first shloka for today. Yadrichhalabhasantushto dvandvatito vimatsarah samah siddhavasiddhau cha kritvapi na nibadhyate. That is the shloka that we have to see today. How one has to be while practicing the karma yoga. For example, when we are doing actions, is there any one single line? A lot of statements that he has mentioned before in terms of the karma yoga, but what is it? To recap one line, you can use this shloka. Yadrichalapa where that person is not expecting anything, but whatever that gain that comes out of its own accord, this person just accepts it. That person is called Yadricha Labha Santushtaha. Labham is gain. Yadricha Labham is I do not go behind gains, but whatever as part of my actions, whatever that accrues, whatever that happens, I just accept it. That is the perfect state. That is the state where we don't go behind doing things in expectation or anticipation of great wealth or properties or whatever that is, but we do things as we do whatever that is given to us. This person accepts it with happiness, with contentment. And that person is called Yadrichalabha Santushtaha. So Yadrichalabha Santushto Dvandvatito Vimatsarah. Not only that, Dvandvatitaha. Who is a Dvandvatitaha? Is a person who, Dvandva means the opposites of life. Happiness, sadness. Up in life, down in life. Likeness, aversion. All these are opposites. Cold, hot, sweet, bitter. Life is sweet, life is bitter. It's going so hard. Easy, hard. All these things are opposites in life. When Sita was stuck in the Sri Lanka, being held captive by Ravana, Hanuman visits Sita, and Sita in fact tells this point to Hanuman. She says that no matter who we are, even Rama, who's an avatar of Vishnu, we are born on this earth, then we cannot escape Hanuman. We cannot escape the pulls and the pushes of duality, the opposites in life. We will have to go through that. We cannot expect life to be a smooth sail all the time, up, up, and up. There will be ups and downs. There will be happiness and moments of grief. The only way is to learn to live with them. Learn to appreciate that life has these two things. There is nothing, no remedy for it. No one can make his or her life to be only happy. That is only a dream. As we go, pursue, do things, perform actions, engage in life, happiness and misery, grief are bound to be there. That's what he's trying to say here. Dvandvatito, dvandva atitaha. Atitaha means one who has passed, surpassed, one who has crossed the opposites. That means one who has learned to live effectively, treating both good and bad equally well, equipoised, without getting excited when something great happens and without going to down, depressed state when something bad happens. But if that person has learned to see both good and bad equally without letting that inner being disturbed by either, then that person is called dvandvatitaha. First is edricha labha santushtaha, which is whatever that accrues, accept it with contentment. And then dvandvatitaha, vimatsaraha, mata matsaryaha is envy. Vimatsaraha is with no envy. And looking at, I don't mind, there can be people like this, right? That's why he's not ruling out, Krishna is not ruling out any option. People can say that I don't mind, I see good and bad, whatever that happens to me equally, but I get disturbed when others grow up and up. To me, I'm okay, but they are going up and up. So that's why ruling out that there should be absence of any jealousy in oneself is vimatsaraha. That person is called vimatsaraha. Samah siddhava siddhaucha. This person treats success and failure one and the same. This person doesn't do any action thinking that that action will be fruitful. This person will not stay away from an action because if I do that action, it will not be successful. Let me not do it, even though that is the right thing to do. It's not about whether we'll be successful or not successful, but whether it is right or not. If something is right, absolutely, that needs to be done at that moment. It may go through, it may not go through, doesn't matter. That is the approach that is mentioned here. Samah siddhava siddhaucha. Siddha means successful. Asiddha means not successful. And treating success and not success situation one and the same and do the action. Now the question can come something like, if I know for sure that it is not going to be successful, if I am not going to succeed, why even try that? That is what people generally will say. But what if it is the right thing to do? Like for example, when it was very well known many from India, that during the moments where foreigners occupied India, and many people know for sure that the occupation was so stronger, and internally it was not possible for a freedom struggle. It was a struggle to get freedom from them. And howsoever you, whatsoever procession you took at a smaller level, in a city level or even a street level, it's not going to really make any difference. But still, that is the right thing to do, to register our protest. And you're not going to be successful because you're, they knew for sure that they are going to be arrested and put in jail. But still, they went ahead, they did the procession, they admitted themselves to be arrested, even though they know for sure that this, but still that is a right thing to do. We cannot accept a foreigner in our land and giving us instructions as to what to be done, what not to be done. That is not the right thing. I will offer myself for this motherland. Patriotism is all about that, right? I will give myself to this land. That is how people fought. So that is the attitude that is being referred here. Whether it will be successful or not successful, if that is the right thing to do, go ahead, do it. Likewise, whether it is successful or not successful, going to be success or not, if something should not be done, that is the right thing to stay away from it. Stay away from it. For example, gambling. Let's say that there is somebody who says that, okay, I have mastered everything in this game. If you bet, if you bet $1, you will get $100, and I will easily bet it because the bet and win for you, because chances of winning are more. And even though we know it, even though we think that we will be successful, gambling is bad, so I am staying out of it. That is the right thing to do there, then we should do the right thing, even though we know for sure we will be successful in that cases, right? So that is how siddhava siddhaucha kritvapi na nibadhyate. Kritvapi, while performing the action, without worrying about success or not successful, or without worrying about good or bad, or without having any jealousy in the mind, and without expecting anything in return, and okay to accept anything that is being given on return, that person, even though he performs, he meaning he or she performs the action, that person is not bound. That person's actions will not result in any sin. Now Arjuna's question is, if I do some actions that's going to kill people and that's going to incur sin in my name, which I do not want. Now Krishna here says that if a person does an action with these conditions, then that person is not bound by sin. Know it and perform your action, is what he's trying to motivate us here. Let's move on to the next shloka. And the next one says 23rd verse. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavastita chetasah yajnaya charatah karma samagram praviliyate. Gata sangasya muktasya, to a person who is free from this attachment, to a person who is doing his job already with that freedom, freedom from jealousy, freedom from attachment towards success or not successful result, then to that person, and situated, that person who is situated and established the knowledge. Knowledge is not nothing about any other research knowledge or space or rocket knowledge. The knowledge is about God, or knowledge is about detachment. That is what is referred here. Who is situated in that knowledge. Jnana vastita chetasaha. Chetasaha is intellect. To that person's intellect that is very well established in this knowledge. Yajnaya charata karma, and that person performs all actions as an yajna. That means as a sacrifice. Samagram praviliyate, that person is completely free, is not even bound to this earth, but this person is completely elevated and he's at the level of a free soul, because he's totally detached from this material nature of this earth. Material nature of this earth, because his body is made up of material nature, right? All said and done, the muscles, the tissues, the bones, the blood, and everything, right? Whatever the body that we have, the hair, the nail, everything is of material nature, including the brain, the mind, and everything is all of material nature. There is only one thing in this whole body that is not associated with material nature, which is our Atman, and that is us, whoever we are right now. This person, whoever that is talking, inside this person, that Atman is driving this body, this vocal cord, this mouth to talk. That person, that is called the Atman. That Atman is the only one that is free from this material nature. Everything else is part of the material nature, and the only way to identify that freedom, that person away from this material body, is to practice whatever that he said before. Edricha labha santushtaha dvandvathitaha, cross all the dualities and opposites, and that person is absolutely free, because that person has already separated that Atman from this material body. Even while inside this body, that person, he or she, has already accomplished what needs to be accomplished in this birth, is what he is trying to say with this verse, where gata sangasya muktasya. Asya means to that person, of that person, of that person. Which person? One who is a muktaha. Muktaha is one who is already identified and practiced that way of living, of just being happy with whatever that accrues and not being turned and twisted by the opposites of life. That happens. That happens to everyone. Show me anyone in this world who hasn't gone through a downward path in life. There can never be. That is a very fundamental nature of taking birth. Taking birth will take us through ups and downs, like a roller coaster ride. We're not going to be all the way up, and then that, and we as humans would like and love to have all ups, but any down, we don't want it. That is how we trained our mind. But what is that we are missing is to distance ourselves and observe our own life from a distance, and then see and look at others' life, and use our knowledge that we acquired from Bhagavad Gita to appreciate that, oh, that is how it is. It is going to be ups and downs. It is not going to be any different, and I am not living any different life than others, and others are not living any different life than mine. That understanding gives the maturity that we are all on the same boat. Maybe the problems are different. Your problems are different and my problems are different, but We are all going through the same set of emotions every day. A person who's having $1,000,000, maybe he's having million problems also, but we see only the millions that goes with them. We don't see the problems with them. All right, so at that level, we are all one and the same. Neither money, wealth, anything is going to alter the situation. And anything and everything keeps changing, changing, changing in this material world. Because the earth and the universe that we are living in is only thing that is 100% sure is changes. No one can escape that. Every moment, everything changes. This moment is gone. Right now it's a new moment. You cannot take bath in the river twice, flowing river twice, because the water is different now. First time you took bath, second time you take bath, the water itself is different. So you cannot take, that's why they say you cannot take. So everything flows in this world, and that is the knowledge. With that knowledge, this person leads the life not bothered by the outcome of it, any of it's any of that person's actions, but only living a life of yajna, doing actions as a sacrifice. Then that person is completely freed. That is the best way to get freed. There are other people who are freed already, that is through the jnana yoga. And not, jnana yoga is not for all. If jnana yoga are for people who are like Prahlada or Dhruva, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, that will just show up, that will just be outshining from within them. So Mirabai, for example, they are the ones who are right for jnana yoga or bhakti yoga. But rest of the population who do not have any clue, karma yoga is the one and only way that is practical, because we all cannot escape and go into the jnana world. But systematically educating ourselves of how to live in this world is the only answer to live a contented life. Happiness is not the right word. I will not say live a happy life, because happiness is again up and down. You cannot be happy all the time. Again, true happiness is having the ability to be contented and feeling that the contentment all the time, whether good happens or bad happens. The contentment inside is very important. Let's see the next verse. Let me share the screen. Okay. 24th verse. Brahmarpanam brahmahavir brahmagnau brahmanahutam brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. It's a very well known verse. Most of you might have heard before. Brahmarpanam brahmahavir brahmagnau brahmanahutam brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. Okay, so now let's understand what this means. Now you might have seen people performing the yajna, fire sacrifice, during wedding or even just normal temple pujas. You might have seen people offering. If you had seen how they offered, whenever we are offering something, there will be a person who is doing the offering, and there will be an object that is offered. That can be any offering. Offerings are anything, right? And there is a thing that receives the offering. Most of the times that is fire, because the our fundamental thing is fire receives whatever the offerings and it carries it to Indra and others and ultimately to Shiman Narayana. That is the our under our as per Vedas, right? So whatever that we offer with that Brahman in mind and then offer. It can be ghee, it can be a rice, or multiple dravyam materials are being offered to that fire. That is how the yajna is performed. Yaga and yajna, right? So now in this verse, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam, there is a significant meaning with which that is being recited. And anyone who performs that yajna or yaga, right? That person who's sitting in front of that fire should think about it, think about this verse and then do it. What is so great about this verse? Let's see. This verse says that Brahmarpanam, whatever the spoon that you use for taking the ghee, right? Oil or ghee, that spoon is also Brahman. That is how Brahman means Shiman Narayana, you can think of it. Brahma Havir, that ghee is also Brahman. Brahmagnav, that Agni, fire is also Brahman. Brahmana Hutam, whoever who is offering, that person is also Brahman. And wherever it reaches is also Brahman. With that knowledge, if the actions are performed, then definitely that person is definitely freed. Anything and everything that is performed with this thought. Now, I'm going to answer the question. I know what is running in, might be running in your mind. We are not performing any yajna or yaga every day. How does it relate to us, right? Hold on to that question. But for now, this shloka specifically says that whoever who is performing that sacrifice, performing with whatever spoon or instrument, and picking up whatever objects with that instrument and offering it on that Agni, offering it to whoever. It is Agni is one of the recipient, right? Anything that is offered is also that Brahman. Whatever that goes is also Brahman. And whatever this person is also Brahman. And whatever this person attains, maximum what is the human can attain? Attain that Brahman, right? Attain that Vishnu. Attaining a Supreme Court, becoming a Supreme Court judge or president of some country or something is like one level. But attaining Supreme is a different level. That means you attained God. Right? Attain God is not the wrong sense of leaving this world, but attaining God is while living, experiencing God. That is the maximum, right? So everything is Brahman. That is the meaning of this verse. Now Krishna in Bhagavad Gita declares that everything that you see around is Brahman. Do not think that you are doing any work. The one who is doing inside you is also me. And you are doing a work. How are you working? Well, are you a blacksmith? Are you using a hammer? That hammer is also me. And what are you making with that hammer? And a nice iron bracket that can be fitted in an engine. That iron bracket is also me. That engine is also me. And whoever who is going to use that engine, the people, they are also me. Anything and everything that you are doing, meaning you are offering, is me. Know that to be me. That is Brahman. Right? That is what he means. Now, it can directly translate to any action that we are doing. That anything that we do, why should we, the question was, why should I do it as a sacrifice? Many people will say, I am getting it, I want to enjoy whatever the fruits of the work that I do. Why should I do it as a sacrifice and then just leave it? Well, the answer starts with this, because everything is me. You are inside me. There is nothing that is outside of me. And so it's quite natural that you have that knowledge inside you that you are part of that Brahman. You are just doing it as part of that Brahman. So there is nothing needs to be lost. Because inside that, what is that? That if a person who can appreciate that he or she is very much within that Brahman. There is nothing that is lost in doing it, because that Brahman is lost. If something that is lost, we didn't lose anything. That Brahman lost. If something that is attained, nothing is attained because we are under that Brahman. That Brahman, there is nothing to attain for that Brahman. So that is why he is saying that there is nothing to lose, nothing to gain, nothing to get hurt, nothing to feel sad, bad, or even happy also not needed, because everything is Brahman. Now, few people are offering, for example, that is the next shloka that we are going to see. Let's see what are those offerings to. For example, I did Satyanarayana Puja, I did Varalakshmi Puja, I did for this deity, that deity, Guru Puja, this, that. We have millions, especially for us Hindus, it's at times harder, right? There are so many devatas, and if someone is a staunch devotee of, uh, if you ask an astrologer, then they will say all this standard, right? You'll have to go and then do this offerings, parihara, this, that. What are this? Now that is what Krishna is going to answer that. Let's hold on and then see what all those mean. But everything, as we are going to see, remember that everything is that Brahman. That is why we don't have to pinpoint and say that, okay, is this correct or that is correct? Because everything is mapping to that Uparwala. If you remember that, then it is easy. दैवतं मे दैवमेवापरे यज्ञं योगिनः पर्युपासते ब्रह्माज्ञावपरे यज्ञं यज्ञेनैवोपजुह्वति. So daivamevapare yajnam. Few people do offerings to many other celestial gods, Indra, Varuna. They will do that one. That is one way of doing. He didn't say right or wrong. That is one way of doing. Whichever that you think is appropriate, you can choose, is what is going to say. Whichever one you think appropriate is what you should do. There is nothing like, I will do everything. He said, he asked me, she said, she asked me to do this so that good thing will happen to me. That won't really translate unless we believe, we have the knowledge, we believe in it and we do it. So many methods are going to be given here, okay, starting from this verse. So if you are interested, then you can choose any method that you believe in, right? I believe that method works well for me, so let me choose that method. He has given wide open, right, choices. People are different, and so people can choose based on their likes and dislikes. Not all are one and the same. Different people will have different preferences. What is wrong is excuse me, what is wrong is to go behind one thing. Let's say we will keep one thing in mind. We'll keep one thing in mind, which is something like, let's say um, my daughter or my son should get married. They are not getting married because they're getting older. So we will keep that benefit in our mind and then start asking for people opinion. Ask this astrologer, ask that guy, this priest, everybody, and whoever says which interests us and which is easier to us. Let's say you go and then take snana in Kashi. They will go do it if it is easier. In the sense, like, if it is easier, they will do it. Everything is okay, but if we believe in it, okay, why he is asking me to do it? Okay, then I believe in that. Not because that, okay, he told me, so I wanted this to happen. Okay, he asked me to do and it's not happening. That also we will just wonder. I have done everything. I did this, I did that. He told me to do this, he told me to do that. But the fundamental belief or trust is not there inside of us, then not anything is going to work, right? People will say hundreds of things, but what is that we believe in is most important. And just belief is also not enough. Are we doing it with a yajna mindset? I need to do this as a sacrifice to that Brahman. That thought also should be there. I need to do this because it's my son, my daughter. I wanted her to get married. That is again an attachment, binding. So that is not going to resolve the thing. All right. So let's see what are the other things that he. So daivameva pare yajnam. Many people worship other celestial gods. Paradevata, something like Indra, Varuna, Agni, Vayu, you name it. There are a sequence, right, which is perfectly okay. And they offer their offerings in Agni. That is one way of worship. Paryupasate, they worship that way. There are few people who do that. Brahmagnava pare yajnam. There are other few people who just offer their Atman itself to that Brahman. That is a different group of people. So he talks about two different people here. One, people who materially do offerings, which is also right. There is nothing wrong about it. Materially do offerings, again, not with that thing should happen, this thing should happen, I should be successful in this, he should be successful in this, she should win this, she should. But as an offering only, without expecting anything. That is why before that he said, before this verse itself, he said, Yadrishta labha santushtaha, without expecting and accepting whatever that going to happen as part of this, without expecting success, unsuccessfulness, and crossing the dualities or opposites, good, bad, worse, best. That kind of mindset should not be there. And then perform offerings to whichever god. That is one group of people. Other group of people are the ones who are willing to offer their own Atma to that Brahman. Brahmagnavapare yajnam yajnenaivopajuhvati. So they are willing to offer their own inner Atman into themselves. This is mostly for Jnana Yogis. This is not definitely for us. These are for Jnana Yogis. Jnana Yogis are willing to offer their Atman into Brahman. So we can't even imagine doing that. How is it done? They know it because they enjoy staying with that Atman all the time. That is all they do because they have given that Atman into the Brahman. There is nothing that is left for them. They don't do any action also. But for rest of us, we will have to do actions as an yajna. Right? And then the next verse. That is one group of people, another group of people, and then one more group of people. श्रोत्राधीनिन्द्रियाण्यन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्दाधीन् विषयान्यन्य इंद्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति. Juhvati, they are offering. What are who are these? Are other group of people. Another group of people is saying, we don't know who will fall in which groups, right? So we can choose any group that suits us, that interests us, and we can do that. Srotradhinindriyanyanye, anye, others. Srotradhin indriyan anya, and the other. Listening, for example, listening, and other. So listening, seeing, eating, tasting, for example, smelling, right? All this, and then feeling. These are all the indriyas, right? And the indriya itself is now being offered as an object in the yajna. So just like if you offer anything into the agni, that just burns it, right? So likewise, one has to imagine that in this verse, all my indriyas, my hearing, my seeing, my smelling, my taste of food, feeling of this body, everything is offered. There are few people. I'm not saying that we should do it. There are few people. Krishna himself says that there are few people who do that, who take out this, not literally remove it, but even though it's there in their body, they feel like they are not seeing anything. They feel they will be like they didn't hear anything. They will be in the middle of a fish market where a chaos will be going around them, but they will peacefully sit and meditate. For rest of us, even a small noise will annoy us. We cannot even bear the scream from our own children or from others. But there are people who have, even though they can hear perfectly well, they have become deaf to this world's noises. Everything is a noise for them, and they will not be mesmerized or lured by any music or beautiful talk or words or any such thing. And they have given up, you should say, sacrificed their listening, their seeing, their smelling, tasting, and feeling in the fire of intellect. Samyagnishu juhvati. In the fire of control of the mind. They have done that, and so nothing can bother them. You cannot show them 100 kg of gold jewelry and lure them, because even though those people can see, they are not, because they already have sacrificed their indriyas. And then the next, shabdadin vishayananya, shabdadin vishayan, objects of the indriyas. Now there are others who have given up objects of the indriyas. This is relatively, we can appreciate it, we can see, we know. What are objects of indriyas? For example, taste, for example. There are few people who do not eat non-vegetarian, right? They have given up, sacrificed the taste of non-veg. That is one way of yajna. That is what Krishna is saying. That is one way of yajna. Given up the food that they like. That is the reason you hear that people will go to Kashi and then they will let go of some of the food that they used to taste. That is the yajna. That is the sacrifice that one can do. And the idea there is they sacrifice the objects one after the other, even though they can hear, even though they can listen, even though they can see, they can feel, they slowly sacrifice, they offer the objects. This item I don't want, that I don't want, this I don't want. They cannot fully 100% give away or block their thing, because there are people are different, our abilities are different, the controlling part is different. So based on the control, people give up few objects, stop watching few things that we have been watching or enjoying, or these eyes are enjoying, the pleasures that we derive out of through these indriyas, whatever pleasures. I don't want that object because that object is entertaining this indriya, this indriya. So likewise, I don't want it, right? Not the ones, we cannot say that, for example, I cannot say that I have sacrificed non-vegetarian. You know why? Because fundamentally I don't like non-vegetarian. I cannot claim that, okay, I have sacrificed non-vegetarian. Not the ones that we fundamentally do not like. We cannot say that. The ones that we are attached to so much, the ones that our indriyas are so much bound to, are we willing to take out the attachment? Are we willing to give up and say goodbye to it? That is the sacrifice that people are, that Krishna is referring to here. Objects, sacrifice those objects into the fire of this indriyas, into the power of this indriyas. Because you need to, when you're sacrificing, you are picking up ghee and pouring into some fire, right? So when we call this as a yajna, which one you are going to take an object? Where are you going to put it in? Into the power, into the fire of our indriyas. Then, for example, with the ones that are addicting us, the ones, for example, the ones that we are watching more often, or one that we are hearing more often, right? Listening to music or whatever, that the moment we start staying away from it, power of that indriya grows. That is how in those days the age-old wise men lived longer and lived an alert, conscious life. Their indriyas, their eyes shone with power. Their voice was powerful. They can hear, and they also know what is going to happen, not just what has happened. We all know what has happened, but we will never know what is going to happen. But they had the intelligence of future reading. How? Because they were willing to take charge of their indriyas. They are willing to forego some of the objects that they are already enjoying. Sacrifice, so Krishna is going to say, sacrifice is the one and only way where humans can elevate themselves. No sacrifice, I will live what I'm doing right now. He is going to say in the later verse, I don't see any good thing is going to happen to them, Arjuna. He's going to finish off. People are not willing to perform any form of sacrifice. Nothing good is going to happen. But if they are willing to perform sacrifice in one way or the other, not necessarily this way or that way, any form of sacrifice is needed in order to advance. We also have been hearing this very often, right? कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ खोना पड़ता है. There is no gain no pain, no gain. Right? That is precisely is translating into this shloka. We should be willing to identify our bindings first and say that, okay, my indriya number one, eyes, have become slave to this object number one, object number two, object number three, object number four. Indriya number two, my ears have become slave to one, two, three, four. And then draw out a plan. Okay, I'm going to sacrifice object 1 for eyes, object 4 for ears. That is how systematically we be willing to do. Nothing is going to be lost. And that is where the vrata is also born. Ekadashi vrata. We are denying ourselves food. That means that day we will fast. At least one day every 15 days. Right? We will observe fasting, denying ourselves rice food. So that is where it is, that is the root of this. That Ekadashi Vrata itself is a root. This sloka is a root for the Ekadashi Vrata and all other vratas that one observes. So again, it has to, he's going to say in a later verse that take advice from a guru. Talk to him or her about how more details. Right? Krishna didn't say that, okay, I just said this, go ahead and then do. Then he knows for sure that people will get into bigger trouble. They will start fasting for days together, and finally they will say that Krishna asked me to do it, and so I just was performing this, and now look at me, I lost my health. Right? I'm also repeating the same thing just because you hear in this Zoom meeting. Do not go ahead and then start your sacrifices yet. First of all, knowledge is important. Implementation is next. We need to think about it and then analyze it and internalize it. Believe in it. Just because Krishna has put it in Bhagavad Gita, should not accept it and start doing it. No, even though that is truth. Now we are in a state, at young age, we should just blindly accept it and do it. But now we are in a state, unless our mind believes, we won't go and do it fully. But we will land into some trouble by trying it out and experimenting it. But now we need to research, we need to internalize, start to analyze the things that goes in our mind and what are our habits, and then choose wisely what are we going to sacrifice. No sacrifice, again he is going to say that no result or even negative result. No sacrifice. But any sacrifice is fine. Anger, for example. Or people can say that I'm not going to get mad at all. I'm going to just let go of that stuff. But that's the most hardest thing. Not getting angry is the most hardest. You can even let go of sweets. Let's say you are a sweet tooth. You have a sweet tooth. You can even sacrifice sweets. But anger, it's intertwined. It's in our body. You can never get rid of it. It's so hard. Jealousy, likewise. As much as we will decide, I am going to get rid of jealousy, anger, but they are all even higher and more stronger. That is why Krishna starts with the easier, the lower ones. The lower ones are the indriyas. For example, if somebody is addicted to watching movies, let's say, back to back in the Netflix, they will watch movie after movie after movie, binge watch, right? If someone asks that, okay, I wanted you to stop that, it might be easier. It might be easier. But anger and other things are related to emotions and mental, right? They are not easier. But this is physical. Any physical thing, maybe easier. Relatively. Again, it is not easier sense, like it's relatively easier. But anything mental, before we attack the mental emotional part, the anger, the jealousy, we need to attack the lower indriyas. That is why he starts with indriyas, if we can do it. If we can do it, if we are able to get hold of the indriya level attractions, desires, then we can take care of our anger at the next level. Our mind develops that strength. So here is the question of building inner strength within ourselves, every one of us. Are we ready to do it, is the question. Or are we just okay with this life, just drifting as it is? I'm not willing to, do anything or take a look at my own inner thing and then strengthen my inner core. If that is the goal, then we should start identifying our addictions towards all this indriyas, and then start addressing one at a time, harmless ones to start with. Because eating is, again, eating is order. If you compare with hearing or seeing, right? Watching may be relatively easy, listening also be relatively easiest. I've been listening to this all the time. Again, it depends on what that person is, right? And what interests that person. If some person is all the time interested in tuning into the radio and then listening to the news, let's say, what is happening around, I want it to be latest on the news. It can be sports, politics. That person cannot remain without knowing what is happening in politics or in sports or in weather or in anything. They wanted all the time noise to be there, some news, anything. They cannot stay inside a room that is perfectly calm. If that person, they should start identifying first, be aware that, okay, I am having that addiction, or I cannot, that itself is a first realization. Oh, I cannot stay without some noise. I've been all the time listening to this. Likewise, eating. Few people continuously eat. They cannot be without any food. Gurus, not necessarily great gurus. Great gurus, of course, my own acharya, he eats only one time a day. In the afternoon, that's it. Only once. No eating before. Eating, when I say eating, it's not necessarily food. Anything. Anything. Nothing goes into the mouth rest of the time. Morning, evening, nothing. Whatever that is eaten only once. It's a healthy life. He lives a healthy life. And if it is Ekadashi day, then he skips that day fully and then eats the day after. So that means 48 hours fasting. So that is how we build. Only by sacrifices we build strength inside. And after that it becomes easy. Some of the things becomes easy. The first hump is the most hardest. We'll see more about it in our next few sessions. For now, we come to the end of this session. I'll see you all in the next week's session. Sriyah Kantaya Kalyana Nidayethinam Sri Venkata Nivasaya Srinivasaya Mangalam. Sarvam Sri Krishnarpanamastu.